Shelley Fabares was born Michelle Ann Marie Fabares on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California. Immersed in the entertainment world from an early age, she was raised primarily by her mother after her parents' divorce. Crucial family connection helped open doors. Her aunt was actress Annette Funicello, a major star of Broadway, film, and
Listen
television.
to me. This is
While this
important. I'm
proximity to
listening.
show business
You
offered
have
early
to trust me
exposure to
on this.
professional performance, it did not guarantee success-only opportunity. Fabares began modeling and appearing in commercials as a child, learning discipline and poise long before most of her peers. Her natural warmth, expressive eyes, and understated emotional intelligence made her especially well-suited to television, which was rapidly becoming America's dominant entertainment medium in the late 1950s. Her career-defining role came in 1958 when she was cast as Mary Stone, the daughter of Donna Reed's character on The Donna Reed Show, over 6 seasons. Fabares grew up before the camera, transforming from a bright, somewhat naive teenager into a thoughtful young woman navigating the emotional complexities of adolescence and early adulthood. What distinguished her from many young TV actresses of the era was her
You'll never
emotional
believe who just
credibility.
called.
Her
Oh,
performances
tell
were
me
grounded,
everything.
sincere, and relatable, allowing audiences to see their own daughters or themselves in her struggles and triumphs. She was not merely America's daughter. She was a mirror of post-war youth culture, evolving alongside a changing nation while still starring on The Donna Reed Show. Fabares achieved a surprising and significant second career as a pop singer. In 1962, she recorded Johnny Angel, a soft, yearning ballad that captured the emotional vulnerability of teenage crushes. The song became a massive hit, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and cementing her status as a bona fide teen idol. Unlike many novelty recordings by television stars, her music resonated because of its sincerity. Her voice, gentle and emotionally transparent, rather than technically showy, perfectly suited the era's romantic sensibilities. She followed with other successful recordings such as Johnny Loves Me and Johnny Get Angry, demonstrating range and growing confidence as a vocalist. Though she eventually stepped away from music, her brief recording career remains an important chapter in early 1960s pop history. As the 1960s progressed, Fabares faced the same
I don't
challenges
know.
many former child and teen
You
stars,
don't know?
redefining her image. She met this challenge with intelligence and restraint, gradually moving into more mature and emotionally complex roles. A significant turning point came through her collaborations with Elvis Presley. She appeared opposite him in Girl Happy 1965, Spin Out 1966, and Clambake 1967. Among Presley's many leading ladies, Fabares stood out for her acting ability and grounded presence, bringing humor, warmth, and authenticity to roles that could easily have been superficial. These films expanded her audience and demonstrated her ability to hold her own alongside one of the biggest stars in the world. Perhaps the most critically acclaimed phase of her career came later when she reinvented herself as a dramatic actress. In television, a recurring role as Christine Armstrong, the wife of Detective Dan August played by Burt Reynolds, marked a decisive break from her ingenue past. The performance
I'll never
earned her
forget
2 Emmy
you.
Award nominations, recognition that confirmed her depth and seriousness as an actress. She stepped into what would become one of the defining roles of her later career when she was cast as Christine Armstrong Fox on the ABC sitcom at a time when television was still finding space for complex, career-driven female characters. She immediately recognized the opportunity. Christine Fox was smart, confident, emotionally grounded, and professionally accomplished far more than a romantic accessory to the male lead. Instead, she stood as an equal partner, bringing wit, warmth, and quiet authority to the show. After ABC moved Coach to air following the hugely popular Roseanne, the series found its audience and grew into one of the network's most reliable hits. It ran for 8 seasons until 1997, solidifying Fabares' reputation as a television mainstay who could anchor a long-running series with grace and consistency. For her work on Coach, she earned 2 Primetime Emmy Award nominations. In 1994, she received a particularly meaningful honor when the Young Artist Foundation presented her with its former Child Star Lifetime Achievement Award. The recognition celebrated not only her role as Christine Fox, but also her enduring legacy as Mary Stone on The Donna Reed Show. Acknowledging a career that successfully bridged generations and eras of television, even while committed to Coach. She continued to expand her resume with television, movies, and special appearances, including Love or Money, 1990, Deadly Relations, 1993, The Great Mom Swap, 1995, and Nightmare Come True, 1997, demonstrating her range and her willingness to explore darker or more dramatic territory. When Coach concluded in 1997, Days transitioned into voice acting, taking on the role of Martha Kent in Superman, the animated series. Her warm, reassuring voice brought emotional depth to the character, earning admiration from longtime fans and a new generation of viewers. She later reprised the role in Justice League and in the direct-to-video feature Superman Brainiac Attacks, 2006. She also continued acting in television films such as Playing to Win, A Moment of Truth movie 1998, while gradually shifting her focus toward behind-the-scenes leadership. From 2004 to 2011, she served as a producer for the Screen Actors Guild Awards, reflecting the deep respect she commanded within the industry. In her personal life, Fabares married record producer Lou Adler in 1964. Although the marriage began with promise, the pressures of demanding careers led to their separation in 1966. With the divorce finalized years later, true and lasting love arrived in 1984 when she married actor Mike Farrell, admired for his work on Maz *H and for his humanitarian spirit. Their marriage was quite successful, grounded in mutual respect and shared values. Her resilience was tested in October 2000, when she was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis and underwent a life-saving liver transplant. The ordeal was physically and emotionally grueling, yet she confronted it with the same strength and grace that defined her career. Supported by Farrell and loved ones, she emerged with renewed gratitude and perspective, becoming an example of courage and perseverance at 81. Shelley Fabares speaks with the quiet authority of someone who has lived fully, loved deeply, and endured. When she opens up about Annette Funicello, it is not to chase headlines, but to honor a bond forged in the golden age of American television. She reflects on the pressures young actresses face to remain endlessly cheerful and frozen in time. And on Funicello's private strength as she navigated those expectations and later her battle with multiple sclerosis, Fabares recalls her friend's courage in revealing her illness publicly, not for pity, but to help others, and insists that Funicello's life was defined not only by hardship, but by love, resilience, and dignity. Speaking now, she says, is about clarity and honest ensuring that Annette Funicello is remembered not as a myth, but as a brave, generous human being whose strength sometimes whispered, "I'm still here." As Shelley Fabares continues reflecting, her memories drift back to the early 1960s. A time when Hollywood carefully manufactured innocence and demanded that young women preserve it at all costs. She remembers how closely their lives ran in parallel, even when they were not working together. Both she and Annette Funicello were marketed as symbols rather than individuals, expected to smile endlessly, never age too quickly, and never reveal doubt or exhaustion. Shelley recalls that Annette felt those expectations more acutely than most because she had been introduced to America as a child, through the Mickey Mouse Club. When the public meets you that young, Shelley reflects, they think they own a piece of you forever. Annette understood that instinctively, and it shaped the way she moved through the world. Shelley describes how, away from cameras, Annette was far more
You'll never believe who just called. Oh, tell me everything.
Sharp, perceptive, and often quietly funny, with a wit that emerged only when she felt safe. Shelley remembers late conversations where Annette spoke candidly about fear of disappointing people, fear of being forgotten, fear of becoming irrelevant in an industry obsessed. Those conversations left a mark. Shelley says she learned early from Annette that fame does not protect you from vulnerability. In many ways, it amplifies it. We were praised constantly, she says, but rarely listened to. Career evolved into beach films and music. Shelley watched her friend work relentlessly to maintain professionalism in an environment that often reduced women to decoration. Films like Beach Party and its sequels brought Annette enormous popularity, but also boxed her into a narrow image. Shelley recalls Annette questioning whether she would ever be allowed to grow beyond it. She wanted depth, Shelley says. She wanted to be taken seriously. That desire resonated deeply with Shelley, who herself was navigating the transition from child actress to adult performer and knew how unforgiving the process could be. When Annette was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the shift was devastating, but also clarifying. Shelley remembers the courage it took for Annette to continue appearing in public as symptoms progressed, long before she revealed her illness to the world. She describes watching her friend fight the instinct to retreat, even as her body betrayed her. There was no self-pity, Shelley says, just determination. When Annette made the decision to go public in 1992, Shelley understood how monumental that choice was. At a time when illness was often hidden to protect careers, Annette chose honesty. hoping her visibility would help others feel less alone. Shelley speaks with particular emotion about how Annette redefined strength. For her, strength, she explains, is often misunderstood as defiance or loud resistance. Annette's strength was quieter. It showed in her refusal to be reduced to her diagnosis, in her insistence on dignity, and in her unwavering kindness even when
I'll
her
never forget you.
own world was narrowing. Shelley remembers visiting Annette during difficult periods and leaving her feeling humbled. She still asked about everyone else, Shelley recalls. She still cared. As years passed and she replied, Shelley noticed how public eyes simplified Annette's life into a series of cheerful highlights followed by tragedy. That narrative never sat right with her. She insists that Annette's later years were filled not only with struggle, but with deep love from her family, her faith, the community she built around her. Shelley emphasizes that Annette never saw herself as a victim. Instead, she saw herself as someone given an unexpected responsibility to show grace under circumstances she never chose. Shelley's own survival following no liver transplant in 2000 deepened her empathy. Facing mortality reshaped her understanding of legacy. She says that living through a life-threatening illness stripped away illusions about fame and accomplishment. What remained, she realized, were relationships and the way one treats others. In that sense, Annette became a guiding example. She showed me that endurance can be generous, Shelley says. That even suffering doesn't have to make you bitter. Now, looking back across decades, Shelley feels a responsibility to speak clearly while she still can. She acknowledges that for much of her career, silence was part of survival. Studios, discouraged honesty, and public narratives were carefully curated. At this stage of her life, she no longer feels bound by those constraints. Speaking about Annette is, for her, an act of respect. Truth is the last gift you can give someone, she says, and Annette deserves that. Shelley also reflects on how their generation of actresses paved the way for greater openness in Hollywood, even if progress came slowly. She notes that young performers today speak more freely about mental health, illness, and identity, and she believes Annette would have been proud of that shift. She wanted things to be easier for the girls who came after us, Shelley says. Even when she was tired, she cared about that.
I don't know.
As she reaches
You
81,
don't know?
Shelley Fabares sees her life not as a series of roles, but as a long arc shaped by endurance, adaptability, and connection. She does not romanticize the past, nor does she regret it. Instead, she views it with balance, acknowledging both the opportunities and the costs. Annette Funicello, she believes, embodied that balance more than most. She knew joy, Shelley says, and she knew pain. And she never let one cancel out the other. In the end, Shelley hopes people remember Annette not only as America's sweetheart, but as a woman of uncommon courage. A woman who faced relentless expectations, physical decline, and public scrutiny without surrendering her humanity. Shelley's voice softens as she concludes her reflections not with sorrow, but with gratitude. She taught me that being remembered isn't about perfection, she says. It's about how gently you live and how bravely you stay, when life asks more of you than you ever expected. For Shelley Fabares, telling the truth now is not about rewriting history, but completing it. It is about replacing polished myth with lived reality, and reminding people that behind every smile from Hollywood's golden age was a human being navigating fear, hope, and resilience. In honoring Annette Funicello with honesty, Shelley offers a final, enduring portrait not of a symbol, but of a friend whose quiet strength continues to echo long after the applause has faded. As Shelley Fabares continues, she speaks about how time alters memory, softening some edges while sharpening others. She says that what remains clearest are not the premieres or publicity photos, but the private moments that never made it into magazines. She remembers Annette sitting quietly between takes, watching others laugh, absorbing everything. She was observant, Shelley says. She understood people better than they realized. That sensitivity, she believes, was both Annette's gift and her burden, allowing her to connect deeply while also feeling disappointment more acutely than most. Shelley reflects on how rarely young actresses of their era were given permission
Listen
to
to
say
me.
no.
This is important.
Schedules
I'm
were
listening.
relentless,
You
expectations
have to trust me
absolute.
on this.
You showed up, smiled, and delivered, no matter what you were feeling inside. She recalls that Annette followed those rules faithfully, even when they conflicted with her own needs. There was a sense that gratitude had to erase exhaustion, Shelley says. Annette carried that quietly. Watching her friend do so reinforced Shelley's own determination to protect her inner life. Even as she continued working steadily, she also speaks about the way friendship functioned as a form of survival. In an industry that often encouraged competition, genuine connection was rare and precious. Shelley says Annette never treated other women as rivals. Instead, she offered encouragement, kindness, and an unspoken understanding that came from shared pressure. We didn't have to explain ourselves to each other, she says. That alone was a relief. Those bonds forged early, endured.
You'll never
Long
believe
after
who
careers
just
shifted
called.
and public attention
Oh,
faded,
tell me
as Annetta's
everything.
illness progressed, Shelley noticed how people's reactions changed. Some withdrew, uncomfortable with vulnerability, while others leaned closer. Annette noticed too. Shelley recalls that her friend accepted this without resentment. She understood fear, Shelley says. She knew people didn't mean harm. They just didn't know how to stay. That awareness, Shelley believes, reflected Annette's emotional maturity and compassion. Even under circumstances that would have justified anger, Shelley speaks candidly about grief, explaining that it does not arrive all at once. Instead, it unfolds in layers, often years later, triggered by something small. A song on the radio, an old photograph, a familiar laugh in a stranger's voice. She says Annette's presence still feels close at times, not in sadness, but in quiet guidance. When I feel overwhelmed, Shelley admits, I think about how she handled things, and it steadies me. She also challenges the way Hollywood histories are often told. Lives become summaries, careers reduced to highlights, struggles simplified. Shelley believes that kind of storytelling does a disservice not only to Annette,
I
but
don't
to
know.
anyone who lived under public scrutiny.
You don't know?
We were complicated, she says. We were human. She hopes that by speaking honestly, she can help restore nuance to a period often remembered only for its surface charm, now largely removed from public life. Shelley values stillness in ways she never could before. She talks about mornings without schedules, conversations without agendas, and the peace that comes from no longer being observed. That distance, she says, has given her clarity. It has allowed her to see her life and Annette as not as performances, but as journeys shaped by growth, mistakes, resilience, and love. Shelley acknowledges that some people may prefer nostalgia untouched by reality. She understands that impulse, but does not share it. Truth doesn't erase beauty, she says. It deepens it. For her, remembering Annette honestly makes her legacy stronger, not weaker. It reveals the courage beneath the smile and the generosity
I'll never
beneath
forget
the fame.
you.
As she brings her reflections to a close, Shelley returns to the idea of dignity. She believes Annette's grace not her fame, but her refusal to let hardship define her spirit. That lesson, Shelley says, stayed with her more than any role or award. She showed me how to endure without losing kindness. She says, that's rare. At this stage of her life, Shelley Fabares is not interested in legacy as reputation. What matters to her is impact the quiet ways people influence one another long after they are gone. In speaking about Annette Funicello now, she is not reopening the past, but honoring it fully. With clarity earned through time, she offers a final truth. That behind the symbols of a golden era were women who felt deeply, loved fiercely, and survived with grace, even when the world asked them to be something less than human.